In this example, we'll place a civil cell. We'll be placing the civil cell that's delivered in the T-intersections imperial library. We use the cell with a secondary median, in other words, a median that is part of the secondary roadway. We'll place the cell by selecting the center line and the edge of pavement to the through road. After a second or two, the cell will shadow, and we can then follow our prompts, as we don't need to reorient the cell. Next, the prompt asks to select the corridors that we wish to clip. So in order to do that, we'll need our constructions on. And in this case, I'll just be clipping out the through road. We can also reset through this if we want to. And then we'll accept the civil cell placement. The clipping function will take a couple seconds longer. And once the cell's been placed, we see the cell in our design. We'll also take notice, because we added clipping from the start, we've clipped our through road corridor. Now our secondary road corridor, we can either go back and clip, or we can, in this case, I'm just going to select it and move it on back. And typically we'll snap that. If we decide to move it back, we'll snap it to the center line of the cell. And this way, if we extend or shorten the cell center line, the corridor will move with it. Now, some modifications we can make. We'll turn off our constructions again. We can see our cell is wider than our corridor. So if we want, we can come in and modify the entire length. Or in this case, I'll just modify the length back to 17 feet. And this will match the width of the pavement section on the secondary road. Okay. So once modified, we can further modify the cell. So with this cell, we have a static cross slope. In other words, the cross slope has been determined in the cell, and it may or may not match the cross slope on our secondary road that we're joining. So with this cell, if we want to change that cross slope, we'll select the element that is the edge of pavement. And what we'll do is we'll go into element information, and we'll drill down into the secondary element. And what we're looking for is a complex element. And we're looking for the profile by projecting simple slope. And you see we have a 2% slope. And in this case, it may or may not match. I'm not exactly sure what we have here. And so I want to go in, and just as an example, I'm going to change this to -3. And what we're going to see is it will reprocess with a 3% slope on this element. Okay. So if you look close, you would have seen this move down along that line. Now, another thing that can be done, so this is very easy to modify this, and as long as you have that complex element on the edge of pavement, there are no adverse effects. Now, the other thing that can happen is, take note how I have a view set up in 3D, but yet I'm working in a two-dimensional view. And also take note how I've turned off constructions, and I've turned off my reference file, so that you can see if I come in here and I turn the reference on, I'm going to see my cell, but it's very hard to pick through information. So we work with this turned off. This is kind of our canvas. The three-dimensional view is our finished model, so to speak. And with that, we can do any number of functions. So grab that linear template, and we could do a couple functions. one of those functions would be to edit the template drop. So we could come in and let's just say we wanted to change the width of our sidewalk. We could in fact come in here and let's change that to 8 feet wide and say apply. So now you can see the sidewalk is quite a bit wider and say okay. And in our template or in our cell in plan view, we're going to see that update. So after a few seconds, we get an update along that sidewalk. Now another function, so we can edit any part of those templates in place. Some other things we can do, and let's grab the template again, so we can change it all together. So let's come in here, and maybe we don't want a sidewalk and what we want is just the curb and gutter and the end condition only. So we'll select that. And we see the update. We now remove the sidewalk from the edge of our pavement. Some other things we can do is we can come into our 3D view, and where we have what is called a surface template, we can either delete it or we could edit that template, where we could come in here and make changes, just like we did the corridor, or we could, just like we did the element template, we could come in and instead of say 3 layers, we could go into our components and pavement and asphalt, and maybe we want 5 layers. And after a brief pause, if we look close, we can now see we have 5 layers in here. So any number of functions can be done on these cells without any detriment. Now, so what we want to do now is we want to change the profile on our curve return. And what we have to be wary of is when we select our elements, we'll come in to the constructions, is that we want to make sure we have the edge of pavement and not the edge of pavement with the profile from the template. So when we select our arc, you see as I'm on it, it's saying profile by template. And that's because there's a point in the template with the exact same feature that's being drawn in the 2D view. So we just want to right click on that and click on where it says active profile exists, and then data point, and get our profile. Next we'll come in and we'll make a snap to the end of our alignment, and I'm just going to place a point and zoom back in. And then we'll do an arc or a curve between elements. And we'll set it to, let's say, 40 feet. And we'll trim both. And then we'll complex that together. And then we'll use our element selector, select the profile with the mini toolbar, set that as active. And once set as active, we should see our 3D view updating. And so you see the bar along the bottom move, and it updated. So we can easily add or reprofile the intersections. I'm going to pull that profile down even further just to exaggerate how that's moving. So I have my cursor up in the 3D view, and you see it moves down. So not only is that piece moving down, but if we look closely, because of the way the cell is constructed, our island and other features also move along with that. So that's it, and I hope that helps.